the Depression hit?
We were pretty well off. My father was a big oil tycoon, so we always had money to spend. There was never a day where we didn't have everything we needed.
Daddy's just humble. We were rich. Emphasis on the rich. It was the bee's knees to have that money. Now we're just like everyone else. The Depression was the worst thing that could have happened to us.
Oh, hush now, Betty. We are still living a comfortable life compared to others who lost everything, all of their savings. I mean, life was just the cat's meow, but we're doing just fine now. Luckily, Clarence was smart enough to steer clear away from all of that speculation hullabaloo.
The market is so unpredictable, I would always say, and turns out I was totally right. My poor father, though, put so much money into stocks and ended up losing almost every cent. He knew stocks could rise and drop, but no amount of experience in speculation could have allowed him to foresee such a rapid decline. That's how we stayed rich in the 20s. He would buy stocks when he believed the stocks prices would rise, but if the stocks can rise, they can also fall.
It was all those greedy middle-class people's fault. There isn't any fall guy in this situation. If anyone is to blame, it's all the people that used credit without understanding what it actually did. They bought so much stuff on credit, and turns out most of them couldn't have afford to pay off all the loans. And those banks gave away unlimited credit without any clue if those people could have actually paid off any of their loans.
See, Roosevelt had it right in shutting down those banks for those 4 days. They took so much money and allowed it all to disappear. I could have hit the bank teller right in the kisser when I found out they used my own money to give out loans. At least I didn't put all our money into the banks, or else we would be living in this tiny cardboard Hoovervilles like those farmers.
You all talk a lot about how your family is now. How much has it changed, and do you believe Roosevelt will help out the economy to make it better?
We don't have as much money as we used to, but we're doing better than the other folks. It's all President Hoover's fault. I don't have a new dress every week. Ugh. He was only a few months into office when the Depression hit everyone hard, so it's clear to have been his fault. We're rich, we shouldn't have been affected, but thanks to him, so many people lost money. Including our family and those poor World War I veterans. By the time the election 32 came around, no one dared to vote for Hoover.
Yeah, and luckily Roosevelt won the election in 1932 against a no-good Hoover, and he promised that America was going to get it together. It was actually quite laughable that Hoover even ran because Roosevelt won by a landslide. Now, maybe if Hoover had put a little more money into giving businesses relief, we could have been out of the Depressions. But I know Roosevelt has some good ideas for the future. You know, his inaugural speech showed how aware he is of the current situation. He understands that the economy is not doing well, and he doesn't sugarcoat it. What I personally appreciate a lot is the fact that he's going to put America first. And all international trades and relations will become secondary to what really matters, which is the welfare of American citizens.
I can't ever forget about his fireside chats. He was able to calm everyone during this terrible time. He showed us all that he was going to be more communicative, and he was going to involve himself in the public's lives, unlike Harding and Coolidge, who believed in a laissez-faire approach, and look where that got us.
Roosevelt is going to make everything all right. He's the big cheese. We trust what he is doing is going to result in relief for everyone, but I hope mainly to the rich.
Have you heard about any of the new deals Roosevelt is planning to launch?
Yes, Roosevelt is launching a bunch of new administration and acts in hopes that the economy will be stimulated and so that people can receive some direct relief.
Correct. Now, are you aware that if he continues to create more deals, the government will lose money, which will result in a deficit spending to keep the administrations afloat?
That doesn't matter to us. We believe that everything he plans to do will help everyone in the long run. Roosevelt is a swell guy, as well as our president, so we should hope his deals work out.
Jake, thank you for participating in our documentary. You have all offered a perspective into what life was like for the upper class, which is what we wanted out of this interview. When were you most financially affected? Did it begin when the drought caused the Dust Bowl in southern states such as Oklahoma or earlier?
We were badly hit in the 1920s. See here, we had too much food. I know, that's just crazy, 'cause now we're starving, but we just had too much. No one wanted to buy our crops anymore. See, we was losing our money.
Tell them about the loans, Billy Joe.
I was getting there, Edna. Anyway, so basically, we used credit to buy our harvesting machines for the farm so we could make more produce and sell more food. One would think that that would work out well for us, but let me continue the story. We thought that European demand for our food after World War I was going to continue. I mean, we were doing pretty well for ourselves, but the demand fell and we had too much food, like I said before. Now, we ain't got any money to pay our loans, so the damn banks go and take everything.
That wasn't even the worst part, son. See, we weren't doing so well, but God was waiting to punish us all for some reason. The clouds went away, and we ain't seen rain in years. The dirt wasn't fertile no more. Now that the banks had taken our farm, they couldn't deal with the Dust Bowl themselves.
Sounds just as bad as you can imagine. Dust was flying all over the place, so we just had to get on out of there.
Where did you all go, and how was it different than Oklahoma?
See, we're farmers, and that's all we know how to be. We headed towards California because we heard they had farms that were hiring. Well, farmers.
Sure wasn't easy. We had no money, but we couldn't stay in Oklahoma. When people even heard we were from Oklahoma, they will call us Okies.
You know I don't like it when you say that word, Edna. See, they was referring to us as Okies because we was so dang poor.
Okay, sorry, Billy Joe. Anyway, my dogs were burning from all the trucking we had to do to reach California. But at least they hired us because we were one of the first ones to arrive.
We didn't have no place to stay the whole way there. So we had to camp out in trenches and build little houses out of materials we found just so we could survive. It went from us being at the top, selling our food and making so much money, to us being homeless and penniless.
I'm very sorry you all had to experience that. Have you, Billy Joe, and Lonnie thought about joining the Civilian Conservation Corps that we set up by Roosevelt to employ men such as yourselves?
No, sir, we're just farmers, and we have our job in California, and we plan to sticking to it right from the beginning.
Thank you all for sharing the troubles you had to face, both economically and physically. Was your family affected by the recent deportations of Mexican Americans? Do you know anyone who was deported?
My brother Luis, he got sent back to Mexico along with so many people. I had a neighbor, Pablo, who wasn't even from Mexico, but the police came to his door and took him and his family sent them on a train to Mexico. See, my family and I would have been sent back too, but we tried our best to not get pinched by la policía.
Dios mío, on my way back to work, our whole neighborhood was filled with police officers. Pobre Pablo, he was one of the first few people taken away.
Ay, ay, ay. They rounded up everyone I knew and made them leave. I heard one officer say, if they have a Mexican-sounding name, then just send them away. Mi familia and I, we went to California to get hired as farmers. The pay is terrible, and the conditions are awful, but at least we won't get deported.
It was Over's fault. So many people we know were sent back. He wanted Americans to have more jobs, not to be unemployed after the Dust Bowl especially, when America was experiencing an internal immigration, and it is clear that Hoover couldn't handle it.
Papa, they only hire us because they would have to pay white people more. In the late 1930s, despite bad conditions for us, most families went back because America's conditions were even worse. Now we are here staying after all, but Hoover is the one who put America into the Great Depression. By doing so, he did not help us. He did not help the country for sure. He didn't help neither of us, nor Americans.
President Roosevelt is a good hombre, though. We like the effort he puts into what he does. For what we know, compared to Hoover, who just put the country into the Depression. He did what he could do to stop it. We feel welcome here now.
También, it's funny, isn't it, that how the white people are now coming to take our jobs. They view us so terribly, but they are now wanting to become farmers because they don't have any money due to Hoover. They will even work less than what we work for, and so we have to fight for the few rights we might have.
What were the working conditions like in your job?
The working conditions were absolutely terrible. They are paying us such little money, so we started to organize unions and strikes, thinking that it would create an impact, but it actually ended up hurting us more because the people that were affected by the Dust Bowl started to take our jobs, and the bosses didn't want to waste time, so they gave up our jobs to them.
Mi pobre niños! They work so hard to feed family and provide us a roof over our head, and now they lost it because they were fighting for something that they shouldn't really be fighting for.
As you know, we work for 16 hours and we get paid 10 cents an hour. We are glad we get some money, but working outside in the hot sun with the small breaks is tough, very terrible. Ay caramba, I die in those fields every day.
What are some things that the New Deal helped you with?
The idea of creating a policy against the discrimination regarding jobs helped for sure, because they are hard to find, and imagine if you're not from here. This policy made us feel safer because it was a time in which people were scared of immigration and the impact it could have on their lives as Americans. Also, all the things made to improve agriculture and farmers' lives helped us because we live in rural area. Infrastructures are better now, and with the Agricultural Adjustment Act of 1933, the supply of basic crops is more guaranteed and controlled.
The New Deal might have not helped us directly, but it helped America offer a better life to us all as immigrants by creating different projects that were specific for each state and covered lots of topics like infrastructure, industry, jobs, education, and increased the quality of life for most people regardless of their ethnicity. I personally think that the New Deal helped everyone believing in the power of the government and democracy again.
Yeah. So for connections to today, we definitely feel like the deportations that happened in America when Hoover was president can be connected to deportations that happen today of certain groups of people.
So yeah, we definitely feel like the deportation of the Mexican Americans could relate to like deportations of large groups of Middle Eastern people and just Muslims.
Travel ban.
Yes, the travel ban, which didn't allow any to enter. And so those two topics, even though it's like years and years apart, they kind of definitely have some kind of like aspect they share, which is trying to alienate certain groups of people.
Also, the policy against discrimination that Roosevelt adopted when it came to jobs can be connected today to the policy against discrimination of LGBTQ plus community.
Now Massachusetts has passed a ballot on how they can have, like, they're making the bathrooms available for anyone who wants to use either bathroom. So now there's a change in that. So yeah.
That's good, people.
Well, that allowed them
That allowed them
to use the public restrooms,
which is
to continue to use the public restrooms. And so we're saying that since Roosevelt did establish that policy where discrimination against people was not allowed, and he created the groups to foresee it. It's like how now in America laws are being established to allow LGBTQ plus people and to like give them their rights.